We are live. Woohoo! Nothing
Happy
but
Friday the
excitement.
13th.
Friday the 13th. Which is, a fine day for our theme to be death, because 2 comic book artists died this week.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa.
What's going on?
Hey. It's G. Russos.
Hey.
Good evening, Chris. How are you doing?
Hey guys, here I am, on time as always.
Yeah, and you're still alive. That counts for something this week when we have 2 comic book artists who died.
And they weren't even old.
No.
I don't really think we should be dunking on them. I don't think that's appropriate.
We're dunking on them.
That sounds like it.
Yeah, they died.
And apparently everybody knew John Cassaday but me. Good evening, Comic Rack. And good evening, Eric P. Did you ever meet John Cassaday, Chris?
I did not.
Neither did I. But like almost everybody I know on Facebook did. I think he was. It was because he was part of that late 90s, early 2000s post Comic-Con bar scene. That who was usually at that? Jimmy Palmiotti, Steve Bunch, Nelson DeCastro, Zena Zarfin, I think, was hanging out there. So all those were like, oh, they were really telling some, stories about John Cassaday. I'm like, did everybody know him but me? Wilson knew him a little bit.
Everyone knew him except for you and me.
Yeah, because I wasn't part of that. I don't think I was going to cons at that time, so I missed out on that whole scene. But of course, there's a bunch of people who used to hang out there, comic book artists who used to go to the cons together and then go to the bar afterwards. Frank Thierry, I think he was there too.
But you don't drink, so drink. So what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, what it was, I hung out in plenty of bars in my youth, but by that time I really didn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was there? Garth Ennis, I think, was there a lot.
Did Garth Ennis drink everybody under the table?
I think so. I did hear that once or twice. Steve Dillon, I think, used to be there.
He had to be the stereotypical Irishman.
So Eric P. Jarrett, FYI, October 1625, Avengers Assembled 2 as a Scott Koblish variant cover. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Avengers Assembled 2. I should write that down on one of my random pieces of paper.
So that you can forget.
Yeah. No, I'll remember I wrote it down. And then I'll dig through all these little small pieces of paper I have on my desk, my drawing table, to try and find it. Good evening, Undead Quinn. Yep, Marie Javins wrote a nice thing about John Cassaday too. She met him. I think she was doing. She said she was doing consulting for Marvel in the late 90s. Amongst her things she was doing for Marvel, and so she used to meet with creators to just sort of work on pitches for like big projects or something. And though she never actually worked with him, he was sometimes in on these pitches. He was, young and in his early days there. Whoops. Sleepy Reader says, hello, cavernous brains of the multiverse. Good evening, Sleepy.
We are here today. This multiverse speaks to you through us.
Did either of you two ever read any John Cassaday stuff?
Oh, yeah. I got some stuff. In fact, I decided to forego the typical, so I didn't bring any of the planetary stuff.
Yep.
So, I mean, let's pull out the thing that.
Yes, Undead Quinn says it's sad we lost John Cassaday. It was desperate.
That put him on the map.
I'll pull those out too. Or I pulled those out too because that's where I first discovered him. I don't know what he did before this. And Mark Wade wrote that he hooked up who's the writer? Jeff Marriott.
Yep.
Mariotti. I don't know how he says his last name.
Yeah.
He hooked up Mariotti with Cassaday at a con one time. First time he met John Cassaday, and he knew that Jeff Marriott was looking for an artist for Desperados, and he was like, I take no credit for discovering him because anybody who looked at his work could see it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I liked his work. Yeah, we'll show you. Is that a trade paperback of all 5 issues?
Yep.
Desperados was a series that I think John Cassaday only did the first. Because I think
the second miniseries was by John Cavern.
Yeah, there's a nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the thing: the first pages they don't look like typical Cassaday yet.
No.
So
well, this is
much thicker lines. Is trying to do. It's trying to use the inking.
I'm not sure I'd recognize this as John Cassaday now.
I think it's trying to draw like other Wildstorm artists.
Yeah,
a little bit because you can see the little bits of Tom Rainey and
right. You could certainly tell he could draw, but he doesn't have that that sort of modeling he developed later on, which you can see in this cover too.
Yeah,
that looks like.
In terms of style of character design, is all over the place here. It shifts from panel to panel.
Oh yeah, I was just looking at that page. Yeah, this is the first work I ever saw by him, and I liked it. Let's see. Tit Goblin says Paul Pope online. Goodbye to Cassaday was kind. Okay. Planetary is packed with visual storytelling magnificence.
Yeah.
John Cassaday's last Marvel are declining. I think he had a stroke before. They said he had a brain problem, but I was actually thinking about that. I don't know how his health was, but I think John Cassaday, what kind of set him apart and his main strength, especially in his later, more mature work, like Astonishing X-Men even, or Planetary, was that he was so good at image making. And by that, I mean, not in a pinup style kind of way, but like I'll open it up to this random page. And just like that shot right there, the White Queen, is just a nice image. And then we get it mirrored over here, storytelling-wise. But he was very good at just making interesting images, not just in the covers. Let me see if I can find another one. Like, just that shot of Kitty Pryde looking at us. Not a lot of artists could do that. They couldn't. There's another, just this shot of the guy in the mask. Cyclops blasting.
Mm-hmm.
Nice image. And he was really good at that. I think because the main criticism I always heard of him is that people who weren't John Cassaday fans found his art a little stiff.
Yeah, I see what they mean, but they're wrong. and I think I can show this here. So I got the I Am Legion one shot.
There's a nice Nick Fury right there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has to do with the coloring too. He's got good coloring.
Okay, so I Am Legion was something that he did for the French market. So much that you have the typical big borders here, and this thing is full of panels for the European size. But you can see that there's movement everywhere, and well, you can. His art is a lot more photographic than all of his contemporaries at Wellstorm. But if this was a photo, he would be a photographer capable of capturing the exact exact moment that shows movement. You can see everyone here that there's always movement of some sort, even when it's implied, like the shot here of the hand grabbing the rope.
Right.
It's not just a hand grabbing the rope. You can feel the tension that the hand is making to make sure that it's still grabbing.
The panel above it is a nice image too of the guy.
Swinging. Yeah, swinging. It's not a pinup. It's not Jim Lee. When you see when you see Jim Lee drawing a character that's swinging, it's like it's frozen in time. And here with Cassaday is definitely that's movement. You can see the movement. Everything is moving. The body roll, the way that the rope twists, and you can tell it more here because since this was originally European format, he has a lot more. Every
62 Lefty entire. I picked up the big I Am Legion hardback a while back.
Yeah, because that finally has all the stories. So, well, DC only published the volume 1, and there are 2 other graphic novels that came out in France that they weren't published at the time, and you need to buy the hardcover to have the whole story.
I wonder how he got hooked up with that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because you don't hear too much about, American artists doing French comics, especially.
Sure, I mean, this was produced by Humanoids. So there's always a chance meeting that's facilitated through the fact that Humanoids.
Wasn't the Humanoids editor someone? I think the Humanoids editor might have been someone that he knew.
Could be.
I can't remember who it was, though.
Okay,
I think I remember reading that recently.
Well, Fabrice Huger is listed as editor, but he was the company owner. Paul Benjamin?
I don't know, maybe.
The fact that this came out in France first.
Yeah.
But Humanoids as offices on both sides, and it's that segment of the population that likes European comics and American comics in equal measure. So they're bound to see each other. And by the time this came out in 2004, you had a lot more American stuff appearing in France, which would obviously lead to
BPT says, some years ago, I found that Je suis Legion in original format, the European format, does him justice.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said, you reduce the size to make it palatable to American readers, and then everything is reduced, and you have to really look to see all the details. Like here, there are so many panels, and they're reduced, but everything is there, and DC was not doing the original art justice.
Yeah. Though, where I think they may be right about the stiffness in his work, I don't have a copy of it, is in that Star Wars #1 that he did. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
It was John. He drew when Marvel took back the Star Wars license and sold 1 million copies with that first issue that had 75 different covers. John Cassaday was the artist on that first story arc, 4 or 5 issues, I forget what. And I know some people didn't like that, and I just looked at it and didn't buy it because I wasn't interested in it. But in thinking back on it, I think the sort of, and I'd heard at the time some people complained they didn't like the art on it. It was too stiff or whatever. And what I attribute that to now is being that he was doing a licensed Star Wars comic, I think that takes his greatest strength away from him, which is image making. He can stretch the bounds of whatever he's drawing and make sort of a new image with it. That's not what Star Wars is looking for. They're looking for on-model likenesses of the characters, which is what he gave them. But I think that takes away from his greatest strength, his ability to create images, which you might not have seen, which might not be 100% on model, but are good pieces of the storytelling. Like I don't really know. Like I wish I had a copy so I could look at it now. But I remember not liking it so much and thinking, I was like, oh, his critics. It looked that Star Wars #1 didn't strike me as prime John Cassaday. Like I said, that could have just been because licensed books, especially Star Wars licensed books, usually had more hands in them than a regular book. His later covers had a lot more stiffness or posed photo qualities. Yeah, I understand. I think that's because sometimes he was just knocking out covers too. That happens. You're knocking out a cover for a paycheck. Maybe it doesn't get as much attention to detail as something you love and pays you more is doing. He came in a star artist doing covers for the Lone Ranger and the type, but his true talent was in interiors. Yeah, he did some nice covers for Lone Ranger. I remember that. I have some of them. Apparently those people didn't read his X-Men run. Yeah, you're right. They very well may not have. But Planetary is, of course, except for that last issue, a book I really love from John Cassaday and Warren Ellis. And even as I look back in these early issues, he's not quite the John Cassaday he became yet. His stuff still looks like those two drawings right there are fairly typical comic book drawings. But his storytelling is that here's another great image of the Man of Bronze there with his shrunken legs and guns up. That's what he was really good at, coming up with stuff like that. Nice panel of those two guys just standing there. He's just really good at imagery. Let me get a second issue I have to show you. But Planetary is definitely worth a read if you've never read it. Have you read Planetary, Paolo?
Of course.
Yeah.
A few years ago, when I was doing videos in my own channel, I did a series celebrating Wildstorm's 25th anniversary. And I usually did 20, 30-minute videos. The Planetary video is 1 hour, 45 minutes.
Wow. Just that shot of the guy wearing the Rising Sun headband, his breath coming out of it. Nice opening splash was Monster Island.
And I wonder whose idea it was to have a different font representing the Japanese dialogue.
Yeah.
Because it meshes really well with the art. The issue number 2 is a leap in quality over number 1. I think just the fact that Ellis gave him, okay, now you do all of the kaiju in your own version of them,
right?
Just going nuts. Even the cover, show the cover to number 2 again. Even it's way different from number 1. It's got a lot more personality. It's a very fun cover.
And then in number 3 we get, since he's being a letterboxed cover, once again a nice image of a ghost with guns firing at us.
Yeah, and since that one's a homage to Hong Kong movies, whole, it's like everything looks like a high definition cinema projection style.
Right, he's got everything No panels cutting down the middle. Everything
all wide.
widescreen, as they used to call it. Even there's a great image.
Mm-hmm.
And this planetary is just peppered with this great image making. I even like the way he did the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of completely different than all the other characters.
Yeah, and having Laura Martin with him.
Yes.
I don't know how much they collaborated when directly when they were trying to come up with the visuals, because you always have because that thing is Warren Ellis's baby, and then you have the editors in between. But I suppose that if you gave Cassaday and Martin free reign to come up with the visuals, because she's a really big help. She helps a lot.
This series put her on my map too. Because what year was this?
Started in 1999. And then you remember there was the 10-year.
There weren't. What was that?
There was a 10-year hiatus between each.
Even in 99, there weren't a lot of colorists who mastered digital color just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say she was one of the first to really master digital coloring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was still a lot of Photoshop
that's what led.
airbrush.
You remember that? Well, DC buys Wildstorm, and all of a sudden, Wildstorm becomes the hot new thing. So much that the DC the DC office in New York, they start getting jealous. But during that time, when they have Warren Ellis writing, and they have Cassaday and Hitch, and Joe Casey comes in with Wildcats. All of that stuff make Wildstorm
Art Deco with here.
Yeah, which is a very interesting take when you're trying to do a pastiche of Captain Marvel, of the original Captain Marvel, because you don't think you really don't associate those kinds of details, but
even the way he drew Winter in his white suit was always nice. Mm-hmm. Sort of wrinkly. It sort of looks, like especially these early issues, they were changing up the sort of style all the time to suit the story they were telling. Mm-hmm. Because these early issues were all sort of like done in ones. What were they called? The Archaeologists of the Unknown. So it was sort of a pop. It was uniting pop culture stories of all different, like the John Woo movies, united with the kaiju, united with the Doc Savage stuff, Man of Bronze. So it was a lot of fun. Smash that thumbs up. Yeah. Issue 2 of Planetary hooked me. Issue 1 hooked me. I mean, it went on I really enjoyed Planet. Oh, there's Wilson. I didn't even notice he came here. Hello there, Wilson.
Hello.
So,
I just learned he based Drummer on himself. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he kind of looks like. Now that you mention it, yeah, they kind of look alike, yeah.
And I was just you knew John Cassaday a little bit, right?
Yes.
I was there from my Facebook. Everybody knew him, but Chris and I.
Yeah, I knew him through Marvel, of course. Doing art returns, so I dealt with him kind of directly with artwork, but also he was every time we had conventions and stuff like that, he would always be at the events. So right. I would always run into him at the bar. He was always, had kind words to say. He knew pretty much everybody. So he made sure that he talked to everybody. We shared drinks and hung out. So I was just shocked to find out.
He was part of that late 90s, early 2000s post-convention bar scene.
Yes.
Which I wasn't really part of any, but Jimmy Palmiotti was over there. Steve Bunch was always there. Nelson DeCastro. I think Frank Thierry was over there. Zena Zarfin. So there was the whole group who was always that was their socializing after the cons.
Yeah. So I was part of that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were all part of that scene and what have you.
Did you see Marie Javins wrote something nice about him too? I
I
didn't
did not see it.
go check it out. It's on Facebook. I didn't realize in the late '90s when she was a consultant for Marvel, she used to be part of some think tank to come up with ideas for Marvel for projects for either Epic or Marvel. And John Cassaday, though she never got to work with him, he was part of those think tanks sometimes.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, oh, I never knew they existed. Yeah, his style influenced a lot of artists out there now. Yeah, I think he was pretty influential. I'm one of those who had never read Astonishing or Planetary, but I only regret the second. Whedon makes me fall asleep. I enjoyed the Astonishing X-Men. You know, this is the first time I bought the collected edition. I used to have volume 2 too, but I sold it. I enjoyed this volume of the 2 volumes of Astonishing X-Men. I thought it was a solid X-Men comic.
Yeah, you can feel that they're playing for stakes. The guys that
Yeah.
the X-Men, the aliens that the X-Men are up against.
I think it was good stuff. There's one. This was a one-shot Desperados too. That I think came out a few years later. Let me take a look at this.
Yeah, I don't have that one, but I only had the second miniseries. The first.
I don't
and the
know how
second,
much
that
he
is.
did in it either. He only did layouts in this one. John Lucas art, John Cassaday, John Lucas layouts. It's from November '99. So it doesn't especially look like John Cassaday. Let me go big to show you. I'm not sure who John Lucas is.
Well, you can see the layouts, but
a little bit.
Yeah.
He spots blacks too completely differently.
Yeah. I think you can see character design as well. I mean, it's not just the layouts.
Yeah.
The full pencils and the inking. I'm sure there are no full pencils in there. Looks all of those black splotches make it look like it was inked directly on the layouts.
John Cassaday cover and back cover. See, to me, this is a John Cassaday back cover that doesn't. This may have just been something they had lying around that they used, because a lot of design thought went into this front cover. Not much went into this back cover. Everybody got their arm exactly straight. Everybody's gritting their teeth in about the same way. So that could have just been a knockoff drawing he did. That they were like, oh, let's use that for the back cover.
Kind of funny that he even decided to publish that. I mean, Desperados is Weird West.
Yeah.
And they came up with it in the late '90s, which is probably not the greatest time to be. Well, actually, it is the greatest time to be trying to be inventive. I mean, with the crash, that's when you start putting all of the crazy ideas, see if any stick. But it's kind of weird because we've talked about this. The Americans completely let go of anything related to westerns, and then Jeff Mariotti decides that he wants to do a weird western at Wildstorm, because he was especially because he was their marketing guy.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, so the marketing guy, the one who's responsible for making sure that the Jim Lee style gets out there, says, you know what, I'm going to use the company resources to develop my weird western idea.
I want something that gives me a challenge to market. If it's up my alley, a lot of people aren't buying it.
Well, I'm not sure how much the Homage brand was attractive, because that was at the same time that Astro City was coming out.
Yeah, Astro City. Bone was under Homage for a while.
Bone was not under Homage. Bone was Image Central, but it was that thing that Paul Smith did. Leave It to Chance.
Okay. What about
was
Strangers in Paradise was homage, I think,
Yeah, for a while.
for a little while.
Yeah, there were a few guys who were doing self-publishing. They okay, let's try going to Image for a while. See, it gets me a new audience.
Mm-hmm. Chris, have you ever done your take on a John Cassaday cover?
Nope.
Nope. No one's ever asked you to do an Astonishing X-Men?
Nope.
Nope. Nope.
Given the plasticity your usual design, your usual character design has, it would be kind of interesting to see your take on this. I mean, because that's the thing about Cassaday. He has these crazy angles for movement, and I think your mini Marvel style would look great on over this.
This is not my favorite Cassaday cover. I find this one weirdly awkward. I mean, he was definitely going for something. Everybody jumping out at you. I much prefer the back cover. Everyone somberly walking away from Professor X.
Especially because it's something most artists never get a chance to draw. The characters' backs.
That Wolverine's got a nice butt there.
Okay.
If you wanted an artist that showed you the back of characters, that would be his name is Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan was so good at drawing the backs of characters.
Oh yeah,
Always showed the backs. You saw the backs of the characters, like you knew that was a Paul Ryan cover.
62 Lefty Blues asks, is that where Cassandra first appeared in the Astonishing X-Men run?
No, she appeared in the new X-Men run by Grant Morrison.
Ah.
The design was by Frank Whiteley.
62 Lefty Blues says the Cavern Desperados is good too. Yeah, I have that one on my shelf. I enjoyed that one. Tit Goblin says, you killed it with your Horned Eyeball Monster cover this week, Jared. I really liked it. Well, I'm glad you liked that one. I showed that one off on my my comic book haul. What is that? Dreams of Things 245. 62 Lefty Blues also says, speaking of weird westerns, I recently came across Eric Powell's Billy the Kid with the Freak Circus. That was, as is all Eric Powell's stuff, that was a good one. I think I only got like the last 2 issues of that. I can't remember if I got the whole thing or not. Or maybe there was 2 mini-series and I picked up the second one. I cannot remember. Good evening, Saul Garnell. Hello. Did you have a favorite John Cassaday comic, Wilson?
I would probably say Planetary because it had kaijus in it. As I was thinking about it, trying to figure, because I read the X-Men stuff because I was, that Marvel. So the X-Men stuff was coming in. It was beautiful to look at, but I couldn't think of like a single title other than Planet. I always went back to Planetary.
Yeah.
As far as series that I enjoyed he was on. But, it's one of those things is that I didn't really follow him.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at Marvel, of course, I was getting the Marvel books. If he was at DC, I was getting the DC books. But I didn't really go looking for his stuff. It's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, yeah, it's John. He's always there. He's always working.
Right.
But I didn't really focus on what he was doing in that kind of case. So it's like I couldn't remember many titles that he did in between those or even after those. I wasn't even sure what he was currently working on because I wasn't picking up Star Wars, which I think that's what he was on.
Yeah.
Or he did for a little while, but I never picked up any of those Star Wars books.
Yeah, he only did the first story arc. What year did Marvel relaunch Star Wars? How long ago was that now?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't even remember.
The latest issue, which I think is the last issue, I think it's issue 50. So that has to be what? If they were consecutive 3 years ago, maybe 4.
Yeah,
but I'm not positive.
5. 60 would be 5 if it was monthly. And he also did. I just checked. I thought I might have had some issues of it, but I must have just read them at Marvel and not kept them. Was his Captain America stuff, because he did Captain America right after 9/11.
Yeah.
And I remember that first issue was dealing with 9/11 and Captain America in like a graveyard facing ghosts or something.
Now that one has slow artwork, yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, you don't really think of John A. Reaver as a superhero writer, and he didn't help. I guess he wanted to comment on the ugliness of war.
Yeah.
And and that's not John Cassaday.
It was definitely an anti-war run, I remember. It was right after 9/11 happened, so kind of made sense. I picked up the 3 TPs of, I guess that's the Billy the Kid stuff. Yep. It was 2016. That's when Star Wars was? Wow. That long ago? That's kind of 8 years? Time flies, doesn't it?
It completely does.
Yeah.
Completely does.
Because it seemed like it was a while. It was such a big deal at the time. Oh, that's right. That was when Disney bought Star Wars. Think of how many movies they've made since then. So it had to be a while ago.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Since then, we've had Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
TV shows, movies, all sorts of stuff.
Nothing but Star Wars. Give me those Star Wars.
And the other artist who died, Karl Moline, which I saw Sergio Carrillo first said that on Facebook. I saw that. Who he worked with Karl at CrossGen, because that, if you remember, I just had bought these just this year, these Route 666 books from CrossGen. If you remember, I didn't have any. I think I may have had the first issue. And I've kind of been meaning to pick them up for 20 years, so I finally did this year on eBay, and this is Karl's work. He's a solid artist, not as well known as John Cassaday. And I think he was also in his early 50s. Nice Wolfman there. This is a horror series. And it was good. I just read it a couple months ago. Just got the last 2 issues this summer, I think. Vampire biting him. And he also did... This is, I think, where I first saw him. He created Frey with Joss Whedon. Let's see, what year was this? This was like one of the first projects outside Buffy, I think, Joss Whedon, even though it was related to the Buffyverse. 2001. So it must have been like right after. There's a nice... Let me go big so I can show you some of this stuff. Nice splash page. And Frey took place way in the future. And she inherited the Slayer mantle. In the future. But this is some nice stuff. This is a pretty nice... I don't know if this was his debut or not. The CrossGen stuff came afterwards. But some nice work by Karl Moline here. Here's the credits. Inker is Andy Owens. The colorist is Dave Stewart. Letterer Michelle Madsen. So a good team too. Well, he went on to do more Buffy stuff, I think.
I missed I don't know.
But do you guys know his work at all?
I didn't see it. I didn't read Route 666.
I knew those titles, but
Right.
and I most likely have picked them up, maybe even had bought the first Frey, but the name wasn't too familiar. I don't know if he ever did any Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Frey was a
because-
big deal when it first came out because of Joss Whedon.
Right. So I remember it. I was reading the Buffy stuff at that time, so chances are I did pick up that first issue. But and Route 66, I picked up the early cross-gen stuff, but the name didn't sound all that familiar to me. So I don't know.
Right, he
if
wasn't
I-
particularly well known.
right. So I wasn't aware of him. But again, being so young too, it's just it's scary, being the same age as these people who are passing away, or even being older than some of them. In this group of comic book people, back to back. It's just.
Yeah, I think it was Tim Howler Mouse once said that there's a saying in his family or something that, because I was mentioning that, when you turn 50 and you suddenly discover people can just drop dead. And I think he said, and there's a saying in his family, once you reach 50, you can die in 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years, or 50 years. It's like, that's the age where all of a sudden people can just die or just drop dead.
Right.
And, they were both, let's see, John Cassaday was 52 and Karl Moline was 51, I think they said. There was no cause of death that I saw on either of them. But
right.
They did write that John Cassaday was having troubles with his brain, whatever that means.
Check with John Galvin on that one.
Forgot that. What was that?
Check with John Galvin on that.
We'll have to.
His brain might have been on fire.
The brain's on fire. I read Frey, forgot the artist.
He didn't do any Marvel before 2004.
Okay. What did he do at Marvel?
So he did remember when they tried to bring back the 2099 universe as Marvel Knights 2099? He did the Daredevil one.
Okay.
And then he did a story in Spider-Man Unlimited, and a few issues of Rogue when she had an ongoing series. And he worked with C.B. Cebulski on The Loners. And then
Saul Darnell says, not just how many Star Wars movies have been made, how many bad Star Wars movies have been made. Don't get me started. It's your own fault for watching Star Wars movie. If that second trilogy didn't scare you off from Star Wars movies, you got no one to blame for yourself. That's my point of view. If you like Senate proceedings, more power to you. Yeah, I never made it through
the paperwork that was involved.
What was that?
We needed to know the paperwork that would have been involved.
The last Star Wars I can always hope, says Saul. Yeah. The last Star Wars movie I actually watched all the way through was Return of the Jedi. Though I did watch the Mandalorian TV shows. Those were pretty good.
Those I did enjoy as well.
Can't say I'm a Star Wars fan, and all my friends who are Star Wars fans are endlessly disappointed. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to read that stuff.
And I never cared for the Star Wars expanded universe.
I do watch like I said, I knew nobody who was into the expanded universe. Mando and Andor was good. I think I did watch Andor. That was all right. If I watched it all the way through, I obviously thought it was all right at least. But it's funny because being that I'm the right Star Wars age, even though I'm not a fan, so many of my other comic book friends are big Star Wars fans. But like none of them were fans of the expanded universe. Not a one. And I remember asking them about that in like the 90s. And they were like, if it's not Luke and Leia and Han Solo, I'm not interested. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. But there's what was that?
Well, I was going to say that there was some expanded stuff that I enjoyed. Like I enjoyed the books.
Right.
Because there was nothing else. I enjoyed the comics to a certain time period. Then I didn't read them anymore because when Marvel was doing it, I was reading them. When Marvel stopped, that kind of closed that chapter with Star Wars for me. I don't think I picked up. I picked up the books that were the comic books that were adaptations of the book, like Splinter of the Mind's Eye. That was really, I thought that was a really good read. It takes place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And so Dark Horse published some of those books. And then Dark Horse also published what could have been the next 3 movies that dealt with Palpatine coming back as a clone and stuff like that. And so that expanded type of stuff I didn't mind. And I read some of those books to a certain point, and then I just kind of, dropped off from Star Wars. That was it for me after a certain, because there was a ton of books coming out, and I never read anything that went past or the introduction of some of the newer characters, so to speak, that only existed in the books. So that was, I think I only stuck with the Luke and Leia stuff in book format to a certain point. And then that was it.
It's funny, one of the guys I follow on YouTube, who I've mentioned to you before, Stupid Chainsaw Productions, I think he's in his 20s somewhere, probably his later 20s now. But he's big, huge into the Star Wars expanded universe. And so he knows all the, and like a lot of his friends are too, who I think, because he grew up with the Star Wars expanded universe. I think like his father is a Star Wars fan and would get Star Wars expanded universe stuff too. So he grew up in that. So he's a huge fan of it. So I always listen to his stuff or watch, about the Star Wars expanded universe because he's really into it. And I find that, interesting. I like when anybody's really into something. I always find that interesting. But like all my Star Wars expanded universe info comes from him reviewing the Star Wars expanded universe books. I was like, I just don't see anyone else doing that on YouTube. Certainly nobody my age. Because they're all, no thank you, Star Wars expanded universe. Let's see. Do you recall when Michael Golden did Star Wars at Marvel? That was awesome, and they looked great. No, I don't remember that. I remember
he did a
Walter
ton of
Simonson
covers.
doing some. He did what?
He did a ton of covers as well.
Oh, his cover on number 38. Wow, he says. I don't remember that. And SVPT says, found out Moline on Route 666. Got sad knowing the story will never get into it. Then every time I saw one of his works, I had to get it. Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't one of those had to get guys for me, but I just got Rough 666, and I usually look for his work. Like I think I bought a bunch of his stuff on Buffy too. But I generally always liked his work. I followed John Cassaday more, but I still didn't get everything. Like I was into the John Cassaday indie stuff more than I was into his Marvel stuff. Or whoever else. Did he do anything for DC?
I think so. I'm seeing a bunch of covers here. Promos. Jonah Hex, Starro.
And I think he could do a good cover, but he didn't always do a good cover. Mm-hmm. I generally liked his work, but not always. In terms of covers.
Some Hellboy and BPRD sketches. Yeah, but not much DC. Yeah, there's a short story here in Rebels. And yeah.
Planetary was always one of those books, even though I have all the issues, I always wanted to get like an absolute edition or something of it, but never quite did. Maybe someday. Have you read Planetary, Chris?
Yes.
Oh, right. You did read it.
I thought it was good, and I think like when I was reading, I was like, oh, I think Jared was talking about this book at some point because there's the sequence about like when they turn the time travel machine on the first time and people just start walking through it.
Yeah.
And I feel like you talked about that specific moment.
Right. I may have
as something significant.
You know, time travel thing I just thought of this week is
like you could go back in time. You could go back in time and change your entire future.
Nope. I wrote this joke. I'm working on my message tee strips for next year that I'm writing for 2024. It's really 2025, but I'm writing it in 2024. That said something like, if I had a time machine, there'd be 3 of me right here now. Because if you had a time machine, you could do team ups with yourself.
Right.
Then I thought to myself, why didn't Dr. Doom has a time machine? Why didn't Dr. Doom go one day into the future, meet himself, say, listen, you go one day into the future and tell that guy, that Dr. Doom, to meet us all on this day in a month. So all of a sudden, on like a certain day and place, like 500,000 Dr. Dooms show up, and you can just conquer that Earth.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's a geometric progression.
Yeah, but there's one problem. All of the Dooms will try to backstab each other. Because there can only be one Doom.
After these million Dooms conquer Earth.
No, before.
Then they fight each other to the... Well, they'll be fighting each other as they conquer the Earth, too. But I was just like, huh.
Yep. I think that the end of Planetary, when they save Ambrose and everybody shows up from the time machine, I think that's a Douglas Adams reference.
Huh. It might be. Saul says, Jared, you don't own Star Wars 38? I'm shocked. Is that in the Michael Golden Artist Edition? It might be. I'm going to have to check, because I have the Michael Golden Artist Edition. I still haven't done a video looking at it, even though I've had it for months now. But that actually might be in there. But yeah, I didn't really collect stuff. I actually started collecting Star Wars the comic once Walt Simonson started drawing it. And then, because like I said, I was never a Star Wars fan, but I'm a comic fan. So once Walter started doing that, I started picking it up because I found that stuff good.
I think my edition's in another room.
Careful, you have 3 of you at once. Time logic dictates if the 3 of you bump into each other, then each other you turn into a Jared Blob monster, Cronenberg Jared. Some of the best art ever made. Oh yeah, I love Michael Golden stuff, but
yes,
I didn't find out till like the 90s that he did a G.I. Joe issue that everybody loved. Just because I wasn't a G.I. Joe fan, but now I have the artist edition portfolio of that G.I. Joe. Whoops.
Yeah, his G.I. Joe covers were amazing, and the annual that he did, because he did airbrushing, he really pushed the limit on what the printers can do using acetates as overlays, color series, color holes were amazing when you look at some of the stuff he was doing.
That's because he was in advertising, so he knew all that, much like Neil Adams.
Yeah,
he knew that stuff. Mm-hmm.
Even when he was doing some of the art directing at Marvel, he was trying some new things as well. Trying things with even the barcode, colors and stuff like that, where it was like, and just trying to do anything new.
Right. Michael Golson also did the NAM. Yep.
Yes.
Back when he was trying at Marvel, before the editors beat him down.
Yep.
Let's switch over to toys for a second.
Ooh. All right.
Just because I wanted a Biddy Pop. I just wanted to, this just came today. This is a Friends Biddy Pop. I had to get it because I didn't have a Phoebe yet. Whoops, over here. I wanted to show you how these came. So those three you can see, and there's a mystery one over this side. So we know we're getting Phoebe with her guitar, Monica in her cook's outfit, and Chandler with the little baby chick. But then it's also got a black shroud around the other one. So this is how they come. Burnisher can be used to open it too.
Look at you keeping everything in mint condition.
I'm going to recycle the box. But then, there's all of them on the back. And I think I now have 3 out of the 4 sets. This one looked like it was going out of print, so I figured I'd get it now. And you open it up. And this up here is the case they go in. And there they are there. And I already had these are chase ones, which I hate blind boxes. I hate chase figures. But being that I bought 2 of these already, I actually have the 2 rarer. There are 2 of them are 1 in 6, and 2 of them are 1 in 3. So I should get one of the 1 in 3s here, I would imagine. But one of them I already got was, I think, Joey. There was a Joey one. I forget the other one I got. But let's see what chase one it is. Let's go big. Is it one of the ones I already have or not? Let's see. We got to pull this shroud off. And it is Joey in the white cowboy outfit, which is, I think, one of the 1 in 6s I already have.
Oh, okay. That's the problem with the blind boxes. Is
that's why I hate blind boxes.
So
it's like, I don't want to. And then these all go in here on their stackable shelf.
I really do like that it comes with its own little shelf that is stacked with other ones. It makes it so much easier to collect and display.
And I'm a fidgeter, which is why I'm sitting here playing with these 2 foam rings the whole time we're talking every week it's been. So I just sit, the amount of times these are next to my chair back there, that I pick these up and fidget with them. I love the way you poke through to get this. You can pull Monica out, put it up on, and I just sit here and do this over and over with them sometimes when I look, just because I'm a fidgeter. So these are a good toy for a fidgeter. Monica's got a frying pan. And I actually just ordered a random set off of eBay that I have no idea where they're from, in terms of, if you go to Funko's website, you can see all the Bitty Pops that they've put out and they have coming out. So far, I've gotten some Friends ones. I've got those Marvel ones, and I've got some ones from Parks and Rec. I tend to buy the ones that are half price, like the Marvel and Parks and Rec ones, because I'm cheap. But I also saw this. They may have been a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive set that I saw on eBay. Because I even went to their website, and Bitty Pop and Funko doesn't even have them on their website. But I think they were Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea ones. I don't know. I know the book of that, and they were like all like sea monsters. So I'm like, I don't know where they came from. Or Fantastic Voyages, that may have been it. I think it's Fantastic Voyages. And they're all like monsters. And it was only, I think, with tax and shipping, $8. These are usually, the full retail on these is $15. So I ended up getting that one for $8, and it'll come wherever. But I'm like, I couldn't even. But I think one like site had mentioned something about San Diego Comic-Con, but I couldn't quite figure out. That may have been like some sort of Comic-Con exclusive. I'm not sure. See, Golden's DVD is him playing the curmudgeon very well. He used to be very much. I know he's worked on it over the last 20 years, but in the 90s, Michael Golden was very bad with his fans because he resented his fans. It was a little strange. I know he worked with Renee at being better with his fans over the years, who's his manager and girlfriend, I think. I don't even know. But he's but he really worked hard at being he was a curmudgeon. Chris, you need to show off your collection and put this Funko stuff to shame. He has met a few times. Have you got anything new lately?
Yeah, I can't. I know I've got some new stuff, but it's nothing that's like would be significant. That's like everyone's gonna be excited about it.
Well, tell us about it anyway.
I'm not a Funko Pop guy.
Neither am I. I like these Bitty Pops, though. And like I said, part of the reason I like these Bitty Pops is they're so tactile, and I'm a fidgeter. So that has a lot to do with it.
Oh, is that what you were showing last week with the drawer opens up and you can take them out and all that?
Yes.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Because when I first got them, I got to say, I was disappointed. I was like, these are so tiny, you can't even see them. Then I started putting them into and I started, I got the tactile feedback from them, and I went, wow, I really like these. Let's see. Saul says, I heard Michael Golden was known to be happier doing airbrush paintings on cars and motorcycles. Is that true? I don't know. I don't think I ever heard him mention airbrush paintings on cars and motorcycles. But when he was art director at Marvel, late 90s, because I think John Romita retired in 96, and Michael Golden may have been high. I know they had no art director for a while, which means Golden probably got there in, I don't know, 97, 98.
Sounds about right.
And he had just spent, I don't know, most of the 90s doing commercial artwork, which paid a lot better than comics. So he was back in comics, and I think he felt like he was, but besides that, he got to be art director of Marvel. That's a good title. But the problem was the title art director at Marvel Comics really didn't come with any power. Usually when you're the art director at a place, that means you're in charge of everything visual. So if you're the art director of, I don't know, an ad agency, you're the guy who makes the final decisions on everything visual. If you're the art director at a book publisher, that means you're in charge of the designers. You make the final call on everything visual of the book. The editors take care of all the writing. But at Marvel, I guess it was because of Stan, the editors were in charge of everything. So the editors always had final say over all the visuals, including the covers. For good, bad, or indifferent. Even when John Romita was there, they could ignore John Romita if they wanted to, and plenty of them did. Some of them went to John to ask for advice and followed his advice, but most of them never did. John Romita didn't have the power to tell the editors what to do, to tell the editors make this better. Like, he was there if the editors wanted it made better, they'd bring it to him and he'd make it better, but he did not have final say. So when Michael Golden was hired at Marvel, he really thought it was a real art director job, because that's what an art director job is. You're in charge. And he really wanted to make all the Marvel books look better. He wanted to do the job. But he ended up banging his head against the wall of editorial. So that by the time he quit a couple years later, he was just done banging his head up against the wall. Because there was, like I said, he had no actual power to tell an editor that cover is bad. We've got to make it look better. He had no actual power to say, let's unify the design of all our books and make them all look good. He didn't. He was just. They really just wanted him for his name. That like the higher ups. It was embarrassing for Marvel not to have an art director. So they kind of wanted to hire him for his name, and I don't know how long he was there. At least 2 years. But Michael Golden at the beginning, compared to Michael Golden at the end, he had just like given up. He was just like, "There's nothing. My talent is wasted here." So that's why he ended up eventually going. I think. Besides, they wanted him to sign a loyalty. At some point, Marvel wanted all of their employees to sign a loyalty oath of some kind. And he kind of used that as an excuse he wasn't signing that to just leave. But I think he was going to leave anyway.
Yeah.
Most people just signed it and went, yeah, because it was like another... That was during the bankruptcy period when there was such a turnover up top of executives. Seemed like there was a new boss every 4 months. And one of their ideas was this loyalty oath. And that's
is that something they would have made us sign?
Yes.
Because I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
I remember right after the move, they were saying that, after we moved, we were looking at some paperwork and we lost something. If you guys can sign this, I think it was the at-will one. And because there was always something that needed to be signed at some point. I just thought it was funny. It's like, really? We lost one paper out of everybody's file that happened to be this at-will thing that was like going through the commercial and the business industry, because that was the new hot button thing that was at-will thing. And it was like, so I think that's what it was that I recall signing, and it was under the whole, we lost some paperwork during the move, and it happened to be this. And it's like, I don't ever remember signing that.
Yeah, this was you're not allowed to say anything bad about Marvel.
They had me sign that when I was leaving.
Okay.
That's what I needed to sign.
Well, they often have you sign that, so that's like... the thing they hold over your head to give you money, kind of thing.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It's like, we'll give you this amount of money when you're leaving to sign. And I was like, I got nothing bad to say about Marvel. Just give me the extra money. Fine, I'll sign it. It's not until years later that I realized, that was really made so I wouldn't sue Marvel, when I realized how much advantage they had taken from me, of me working there, where it's like, so I was replaced with 7 people because of all the work that I was doing. Okay. That's why they had me sign that.
Ooh, I got one more football card this week.
Oh, whose jersey did you get?
I got Saquon Barkley, who is now an Eagle. I continue my journey. I just like I said, I just find these fascinating. With a game-worn piece of his jersey on the card. I think this one, since this is the first year he's not with the Giants and he's with the Eagles, their arch rivals. This one was like $4. I don't think anyone's buying Saquon Barkley Giants cards. But a cool card, extra thick.
Since we're talking about toys, what I got today in the mail is I bought these together as a pack. So I've been dabbling back to the 3.75 scale figures. So I've picked up Spock and McCoy from the Star Trek The Motion Picture figures. These came with a motion picture cup, just because that was the grouping of it, because I wanted the figures, so I got the cup too. So now I got a place to put the figures for now, and I can pretend it's a starship, because they never really they made some ships, but in the smaller scale, of course. And then this particular set, they made a bridge of the Enterprise that was made out of not vac metal, that very thin plastic. I forget the name of it, but
Don't
a
they always
very
make a
thin.
shuttlecraft?
They did in the Playmates version of it. So you can probably fit them in the Playmates one because those are slightly larger than the 3.75. So the later ones would have ships and have bigger play sets. But back then, for the motion picture, they had a bridge piece that was pretty nice, but very expensive because the plastic gets so brittle. Because it wasn't meant to last. And there was a Enterprise made, a larger ship to play around with, but that's not something that I would get for a collection. And they only made, like, I think 6 members of the bridge crew. You had Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Captain Decker, Scotty, and Alea, and then you had 6 generic aliens that were like in the background of the movie, never really seen again. And that was pretty much it in that particular set. There's 12 figures that you could kind of get a whole series because there's not that many. It's not like Star Wars where they printed every character that ever appeared on screen. For that particular Star Trek line, there will be a limited amount. They're fairly easy to collect because they made so many of them, but it's the aliens that are the crazy prices.
Mm-hmm. So I got 6 comics this week at the comic shop. But first I want to show you one that I forgot to show that I got last week. I got my first facsimile in a while, which is Detective Comics 400.
Oh, I missed that one.
Came out last week. Neil Adams, First Man Bat. And what's it? I didn't realize Man Bat, the Batman story was only 16 pages. Then it was filled out by a Batgirl story by Gil Kane and Vince Coletta, not doing much inking.
Yeah, that was normal. Although I think in '84 they were still doing that, running backups in Detective.
Yeah, but it's funny. I've never had Batman 400. But I've read the First Man Bat. I think they may have reprinted it in a Batman Family. Because I had a few Batman Families as a kid. Like I said, I wasn't a DC collector. But Batman Family also often had a new first story and then a bunch of reprints because it was one of those 100-page specials or something. So I think they reprinted this in one of the Batman Families I had. Because I know that I've read the First Man Bat. But nice Neil Adams story. I like these. Who does he face? The Blackout Gang. The Blackout Gang are these guys in these all black suits. And their whole shtick is they've got some kind of night vision goggles and they only work in the total darkness so Batman can't find them. But what's so funny is they're robbing this I don't know what they're robbing. I don't even think this is the museum. But here they are somewhere out in Gotham robbing someplace, and then one of them accidentally drops their special noiseless cutter tool, and Batman just shows up. He's like, aha, I hear you, and starts getting in a fight with them. It's like, where'd he come from? It's like, if anybody makes a noise in the sewers of Gotham, Batman's there in an instant. It was just funny that they weren't like Batman's been stalking us. There was no Batman going, I've been following these guys. He just shows up. They're just like, oh no, we dropped this thing. Now maybe Batman could hear us. And Batman just throws himself into the fight. It's like, how did he even know you were there? How did he know what part of underground Gotham to be in? So I just found that amusing. Batman uppercut. But this was a good one. And you were at the shop again you got to the shop this week, Wilson?
Yes, I did pick up some books this week.
Show us yours.
So I freebie another IDW Ninja Turtles catalog. So that's basically mostly what they print these days. So I picked up the catalog because, it's free. But the books that I picked up that were waiting there for me is Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons.
Volume 2.
Son of Giants. Yep, this is Volume 2. Son of Giants, issue number 3.
Who's writing that one? Is that Frank Thierry?
That's still Frank. Frank is still writing this. I think it's the same team.
Part of that post-con crowd from the late 90s, early 2000s?
Frank was one of them.
Yep.
Staying with the Godzilla motif, and another sequel to a series, Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 2, issue number 5. And although I did not pick it up, Godzilla's been appearing on Marvel covers.
Yeah, did you just see? I left a comment on Tim Toohey's.
I saw he posted something on Facebook about it.
He's a big Godzilla fan. And they're now making facsimiles with alternate covers. And I was like, how can it be a facsimile if it's got an alternate cover? It's making my puzzler hurt. So because he got the Godzilla, Marvel Godzilla #1, I think the regular one, and he got the facsimile. He got facsimile, and he got the alternate cover facsimile. I'm like, well, it's not a facsimile now.
Right. I did not see the alternate cover. I thought it was just a facsimile and then like a silver foilish cover. But
nope, they had actual. This is the first time I've seen an alternate cover. And I even looked it up just because I'm like, he's got to be making a mistake. They can't have a facsimile with an alternate cover. That makes no sense. Sure enough, the Godzilla facsimile came with an alternate cover.
Amazing. I missed that one. I wonder what the cover looks like. I'll look it up later. But it was funny to see the cover, Godzilla on the cover. And for me, it's like, okay, if he's on a cover with Spider-Man, I'll pick that up. Because I don't want, as much as I would like to grab the other one. If he's not in the book, I don't really care. It's just neat that he's on the cover, but I didn't see him with Spider-Man, so it's like I haven't picked up any of the Godzilla cameo covers with the Marvel characters as of yet. So I just made a note of it. It's like, I got to mention that Godzilla's appearing in other places, but he's not in the actual comic books. And I find it funny, Godzilla appearing on a Marvel comic book, because Marvel got in trouble for Godzilla being in a comic book, in a Spider-Man book, as a toy. That was a Mark Bagley cover. And I remember having to deal with the artwork. It's like they have to now change the artwork. So if they ever reprint that book, the art has to be changed. And funny enough, there was a trade paperback that came out not that long ago that reprinted that book. And out of curiosity, I picked it up to see if they printed it with the correct new cover. And they never did. And it was amazing to sit there and kind of listen to the, we can issue a new cover, but we won't issue a recall because that's what the company wanted that owns Godzilla. Toho wanted
because nobody will return them in.
Well, no, and it was so not out of print, but it was enough time that there was no way to get those books back.
No.
You can recall the books that might be in the comic book shop, but you're not going to get the ones that were sold.
Right. The fans are not giving you their comics. Sorry.
Not at all. Not at all. So that was interesting to watch how, Marvel kind of got in trouble. I don't know if they had to pay a fine or anything like that, but it was just funny to me where I had looked at the artwork, how they changed Godzilla to another monster, but they've technically changed him into another monster that's very close to one of those to one of those Ultraman monsters. It's like you're now just going to get in trouble with another company. And I don't think people really paid attention to the monster they were making. But I never got to see that new cover printed. So they changed the cover, sent it to Toho, I would imagine, to go, here's what the next printings would ever look like if we printed them again. And they never popped up like that again. I always thought that was quite entertaining.
Huh. Now, here's one where Paolo's going to explain the joke to us. I don't know if you watched my pull list haul this week, but it's the Santos sisters. But first, I got to read you what somebody, who is this? Gus explained what it meant, but then, who is this? Portfolio BD said, don't worry, Paolo will explain to you what Marisco is. 60 comics, fast cars, and Moriscos. He's an expert on the subject. Which is
actually not. I'm too lazy to remove shrimp peels.
Well, here is well, if it isn't Amber and Alana Santos, the Santos sisters. That's funny, Alana. I don't remember ordering Moriscos.
Well, in Brazil, it's probably crawfish.
Yeah. Let's see. What did Gus?
I have no idea what it is.
It's a generic term for shelled seafood.
Okay.
So crustacean and clams.
And who are the Santos sisters?
This is they're right there. It says they're superheroes, and this is sort of I'd call it an adult Archie's comic, but it's not really that adult. I mean, it's not like there's nudity and tons of cursing in it somewhere.
And but that blue chicken guy is supposed to be Savage Dragon?
I have no idea who the blue chicken guy is. Let's see, what's his name? And it's weirdly like I think I bought one issue of this before, and then on final quarter cutoff, I didn't have a lot this week, so I saw this and I went, you know what, maybe I'll get another Santos issues. But what's strange about it is
them in the costume looks vaguely familiar.
I'll try to show you their costumes. Like the first one, they're just kind of like hanging out with their. What's weird is in the first one, it's napping. No, that's there's like the first. There's like a 7-page story at the beginning that's to be continued. Then there's another 7-page story that's a done in one. 8-page story that's a done in one. There's the Santos sisters in their superhero costumes. And like this whole second story is kind of about there's this fish woman. That guy right there is one of the Santos sisters' boyfriend. So then we got this woman right, like I said, it's got some, you can see her butt. There's like, it's not really that adult, but it's adult. And she's some fish woman who's like, hey, this guy must have something going on because he's one of the Santos sisters' boyfriends. So I'm going to kidnap him and mate with him. That way our children will be something special because he's something special. So that's who this blue guy and the lizard are. They're her henchmen who go and kidnap the boyfriend. So then the Santos sisters have to go and save the boyfriend. And no, she's got him tied up in the bed in his little swim trunks. So that's kind of the level of adult it is. It's not really, it's still, I mean, it'd be kind of rated PG at best, but it's, And there's just a series of short stories, there's no Archie type stories in it. There's the Santos sisters in their costume again, where someone sends a Trojan horse into their headquarters, so they got to drive the woman out. But it's a fun little comic for every now and then.
And is the whole series done in that style, or was that just a
Yeah,
special
the whole
particular-
series is done in this Archie style, and they have trades of it. Where's the? There we go. There's Santos Sisters Volume 1.
Okay.
My criticism of it would be it's not adult enough to set it apart from actual Archie comics. But it's all right. It's just kind of fun. I like that cover.
It is a good cover. It's a good design. It screams Archie, of course, but
Yeah.
I like it because of that.
Who? I don't even remember seeing credits. Who does it? Who does this cover? Greg and Fake. Let me see if I can find the credits on this thing. 'Cause I don't even remember seeing any credits. I don't think there are any credits.
So it might be Archie artists who don't want to get in trouble.
I don't know. And here's
That actually makes sense.
2-pager about drunk bumblebees. Yeah, I don't think there's any credits on this. It's starring Greg and Fake, Greg and Fake, world famous crime fighting duo. The detailed world of Las Brisas comes to life. Oh, Fantagraphics. Fantagraphics is publishing the collection. I don't know who's publishing this. American Nature, it says. Floating World Comics. Isn't that a comic shop?
It's possible. There are some shops that I know have been publishing their own comics.
Yeah. And then it says Psalms 19:1. So they give us a Bible verse there too. I don't know what that's for. It's a bit of a mystery. Yeah. Eric P says Santos sister is very Archie meets Love and Rockets. That's a good comparison. Greg and Fake do the whole book. Okay, whoever they might be. Have you been to the comic shop in a while, Chris?
I have not.
He has not. What are you working on tonight?
Something I can talk about later.
Okay. And Eric P says Floating Worlds Comics is a shop in Portland, Oregon, but they have also been publishing books. Okay. You mean later, like in an hour, or later, like another week?
Like another week.
Okay.
Like whenever people are talking about it online, and I know that it's a thing.
We get you.
Yep.
Want to show us another comic, Wilson?
Sure. So the next book I picked up from Mad Cave is a continuation of Gotcha Man, issue number 3.
Have you read the first 2 yet?
I read the first one. I haven't read 2 or 3 yet. So that's going to be this weekend's reading.
But you liked the first one?
I enjoyed the first one a lot. It follows the continuity of the original television show of the same name, but in the United States, we would know it as Battle of the Planets, where they modified the art and story for American audience. But this one is more connected to the original series, and the Mad Cave editorial is working closely together with like the original creators to get approval on the stuff.
Okay.
And they're introducing a next set of younger members of the team to continue building the roster is what they've been going for. So I've been enjoying it. It's I forget who writes it, but it's drawn by The artwork is by Chris Batista, doing the pencils and inks. Is written by Cullen Bunn, Bunn,
Yep.
and it's colored by Carlos Lopez and lettered by Buddy Brudonen. I'm saying that correctly. Here's the correct stage.
Here, I'll make you bigger so we can read. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, it's a little too blurry to read.
Is it? Oh, okay, sorry about that. And they did a couple of alternate covers, ABC, and a retail incentive cover.
Who did that? Was that it? Who did that cover?
This particular cover is cover A. I believe this is cover A. It looks like this one's Anika Miranda.
Don't know that name.
Cover B is by Stanford Green. And then the retail incentive is by Francine Delgado.
I like Stanford Green stuff. I know him from Bitter Root, I think it is.
This was waiting for me, so this was the
Right,
I usually take the cover A. And then the back cover is a nice piece by Chris Batista.
Okay.
And then going back to
Did you say Chris Batista was doing the inside?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And tying in with that, I got a Colin Bunn book this week. I think somebody on here mentioned this one last week. Asked if I got it. The Autumn Kingdom by Colin Bunn and Christopher Mitten, whose name I know, but I don't think I've gotten anything of his. And I opened it up and liked the artwork. And like I said, someone mentioned it last week on this show, I think it was, and said it was pretty good. Was it? It's from Oni. And I think this is it's horror, but it might kind of, I'm not 100% sure. I like that. But it might be sort of young adult horror. Because it starts out with we get like excerpts from a horror book, and it turns out that here's the family here. There's the father, the two girls, and the wife. And the father is writing the book, and one of his daughters is reading it as he's writing it, giving him feedback. And they're ending up going on this family vacation for 6 weeks, where he's going to be working on the book, and they're going to be hanging out in this nice house in the woods. And they run into this little cove with these statues in it. And then that night, as she's reading, one of the daughters is awakened, and that's when all the monsters attack. But it's like the monsters like kill the parents immediately.
No.
It's like, whoa, they just killed the parents. And then to give away the last page, one of the daughters finds a giant sword. So I guess we get two teenage girls against monsters. At least the two teenage girls have a giant sword. But it was a nice first issue. I don't know if I can pre-order it yet, because usually the pre-order, the final order cutoff for the next issue is the week that the first issue comes out. And since I bought this a week late, I might, but that's not always the case. Sometimes instead of it coming out monthly, it comes out every 6 weeks. So we'll have to see if I can pre-order issue 2, or if I have to just tell them I want it, and if they pre-ordered 1, they'll have it. They'll shift it my way. But it was a nice issue.
The next issue that I picked up from Marvel is Spider-Boy number 11. And here's the cover to it.
Spider-Boy, a school bus cover.
I like the design of it.
Yeah.
If it was just moved over just slightly, that school bus lettering would be right under the Spider-Boy lettering, but then it wouldn't really center everything else.
They
So it's like,
purposefully didn't want it symmetrical.
yeah, and it's even over it a little bit. And then staying in the Spider-Man family, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 57, which is quite an interesting cover because you have Spider-Man speaking to Tombstone. So you have Spider-Man reflected in the window, but you also have the Spider-Man logo reflected in there as well. And it almost looks like it was a double print, but it's not. And I don't know how many people might have been confused by it. I could see what they were going for because of Spider-Man on there, but it's interesting how when I first looked at this cover, it's like, wait, did the logo print twice? But I realized no, that was the way.
Is that the J.R. Jr. book?
That's the J.R. Jr. book. That's the J.R. Jr. cover, and J.R. Jr. did the interiors as well. He was off of it for a short while. I think they took a small break, but he's back on it again. This is also, I believe, the start or near the ending of Zeb Wells' run on Spider-Man. So I think he's closing out his stories.
I wonder how Virginia Ramita is doing.
I don't know.
John's mother and John Romita Sr.'s wife, who was my boss at Marvel for a while. Boy, I look over at my email and I got a receipt from Ed Whitehead's Tire Pros in Arizona. Wonder what that's about. I have not bought any tires in Arizona.
Are you buying car parts and having them shipped to you? It might be one of those phishing emails where here's a bill, and to fix it, you have to go here, here, and there.
It could be, but I've also found at times my email gets on somebody else's by mistake. I have run into that. I don't know how. I think it's also because my email is like public. I've got it on my website. One time, somebody signed up for a dating profile using my email.
Wow.
And were you being shown the singles in your area?
Which I did. No, because it was in like Virginia. They signed up with it. It was far away. Let's see, another book I got. Oh, yeah, I will not click on anything in an email, 62 Lefty Blues. That's for sure. Got the latest Department of Truth.
It's back.
This has been doing a... this is the book where if enough people believe a conspiracy happened, it rewrites history, and that conspiracy then has happened. And now they're kind of giving us the origin of the current leader of the Department of Truth is Lee Harvey Oswald. So they're kind of giving us his story, and they're tying it into the Kennedy assassination, of course. And this is a take on that famous video of LBJ being sworn in with Jackie Kennedy in her bloody clothes right there. And this is the woman who's kind of somehow behind that whole conspiracy theory thing. We don't really know what her role is, but she has something to do with the whole thing where things becomes truth. And it's hard. But this one also had an interesting thing where all of a sudden we had double page spreads by other artists. Elsa Chartier did a double-page spread. I think this was hers. Well, all of a sudden, we got 3 or 4 artists doing double-page spreads telling us the stories of the 60s. So that was kind of interesting. But this is just it's good stuff. It's hard to really describe what's going on in it. There's the Mothman page. But this issue was sort of all about Lee Harvey Oswald eventually taking over the Department of Truth from what's his name, Copra, the Miracle on 34th Street director.
Yeah,
Frank Capra. There we go. Frank Capra was running the Department of Truth before Lee Harvey Oswald. So it's sort of about the handover of the Department of Truth. And it's really hard to describe, but it's a lot of fun. It's well done. Good artwork, good writing. Department of Truth. Wonder what John Cassady's last project was. I don't know. Because one of the things I ended up getting this week, too, off of eBay that I didn't know it exists, was Bernie Moreau's last project. Since he was our cartoonist that died last week. But it turned out he did this to get her, which is also together chopped up. I just noticed now as I look at the cover. I did not realize that. Because I think this all originally came out in because I didn't even know he did this. This is from 2012. And I think it originally came out as only like a 50 copy run. And then some small publisher picked it up to do an open run. About Comics, BEM Graphics, Comic Art and Design. And I think this is print on demand. That's what the book looks like. And it's in black and white. And I think it's it's like a continuation of his Jam, but not quite the same. What does it say in there? This is the Jam. Is it better for the soul to have one romantic love, one mate for your entire adult life? Or is it healthier to accept life as a series of relationships that usually comes down to an end in one form or another? Is our own personal happiness too large a responsibility to assign to another? Is to do so lazy? Because I think this is about the character, the Jam, when he's older, breaking up with his long-term girlfriend. I think that's what I read the description was. There's even some pages with lots of text. I don't know what that's about. And in the back, I think we have some reprints of his Jam stuff too. So I look forward to reading this. I never knew it came out in 2012. So yeah, To Get Her, Art and Text 2012, Bernie Moreau. So I'm a little sad that it took him dying for me to realize that he had something out. That's definitely always a little sad. So I think it cost me like $20 or $25 on eBay to get it. It's, shipping and tax included. I think it was around 24 maybe. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it. And like I said, I didn't realize till looking at it right now. I guess together, broken up is to get her. Oh, and we got a wrench and a heart. I guess he's trying to fix his own broken heart. So maybe that had something to do with Bernie Moreau in real life. Because I think he must have gotten married. He had 2 kids, I read. Mm-hmm. You ever found anything someone did after they died?
In movies, a lot.
Well, yeah. There's nothing that I can think of think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure I have. Or like discovered, oh, I didn't know they worked on this project. Yeah, there's been plenty of times of that type of thing. But nothing off the top of my head that I can think of.
He did an issue of that? I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
That happened.
Yeah, I've ran into that a lot where it's like, oh, I didn't know that Michael Golden might have worked on this particular cover or that particular cover. Michael's still with us, of course. But I just mean in general, sometimes you discover that an artist did something that had no idea they were a part of whatever that project may be, because it can be pretty obscure.
Chris Giarrusso did a Cyberforce cover?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got a couple weeks ago. What is Chris up to?
There's some pop-up came up on my phone.
There was some other comic shop exclusive Chris cover that I found on eBay, but I haven't gotten it yet. Was it Transformers?
There's a Transformers cover I did for Acme Comics.
That might be it. Let me check mine.
I did a G.I. Joe cover for. Yeah.
If I can get my watch list, stop going to places, because I think I bookmarked it. There we go. IDW Transformers covers Titans Return. Acme Comics cover, and it's a wraparound.
Yep.
How much does a Walking Dead Chris Giarrusso variant cover 9.8 CGC go for?
10?
There was one going for $44. Not bad for a CGC 9.8.
That's why you should ask for 10 comp copies of everything you do.
Oh, you can ask for them. Doesn't mean they'll show up. Ask all you want.
Well, if you had a sponsorship agreement, that would help finance the printing.
Huh. What do you think? He's a race car driver?
Well, that's what race car drivers do. They have to come up with $10 million so they can race in NASCAR. Those cars that are the gasoline isn't free, you know.
Gasoline ain't free.
Well, you don't need $10 million in NASCAR. 2.5 will do fine.
Well, that's good to know, I guess. 10 million, 2 million. After a certain amount, it's kind of the same. I'm not getting that.
Let me show you my comic with the ding on the bottom. There's my ding. Let's see if you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
I'll have to tell you that story after I show you. Not that it's much of a story. The art in this is just terrific. The Ian Bertram art. The story is a bit psychedelic. I don't know exactly what's going on. Something about a father trying to find his daughter in a world, trying to find this kid who can make magical stuff happen. I can't tell you what it's about. I don't really know.
In a world.
But I love the artwork and the storytelling. It's just good stuff. But the annoying story is I bought 100 pack of comic book bags this week at my LCS. And those, I don't know how much you've handled a bag of bags, but they're so freaking slippery. The bags, the outside bags themselves are slippery.
Totally.
The bags inside rubbing against bags are totally slippery. So I took I took my comics out of the paper bag they were in with the pack of 100 bags underneath. And then the whole thing, all the comics just slipped right out of my hand because of the slippery bag and landed on the floor. And I was like, "Oh, those aren't in mint condition anymore." And it looked like it was my issue of Precious Metal took the biggest hit. But once again, it's a prequel to their previous comic. The writer is Darcy Van Poelgeest. However you say that, Poelgeest. Ian Bertram and Matt Hollingsworth is the colorist.
Is that one of those things that comes on in France before it
I don't
comes out in
think
the
it.
US?
No, I don't think it is. Sleepy Reader was telling me that he was saying that Ian Bertram has been drawing this for a while. So I think it's a US book. And by the it doesn't seem to have any of the European margins either.
But that Dutch sounding name you mentioned.
Yeah. I don't know where he's from.
Yeah. Do you have the book there?
Yeah, let me show you.
Okay. Well, the first name is Darcy, so she's probably an American girl. And that would be pronounced in Dutch as Van Poelgeest.
I have Dutch ancestors who came over to this country, I think in the 1600s. And I cannot tell you what their Dutch name was. I'd have to look it up with my mother. But when they got here, they became Smith. So it went from this long Dutch name that I couldn't even pronounce to Smith. I don't know exactly when they turned over to Smith. Maybe when the English took over. But I have my Dutch ancestors came here a long time ago.
Well, Darcy has an IMDb page. Short movies. Producer.
62 Lefty Blues says, any Reed Rippin slab from the 70s? Let's see what I got.
Yeah. Darcy Van Poelgeest is an award-winning writer and director. He lives in Vancouver, BC.
So it's a he.
Yep, and he's Canadian. And
yep.
And worse is Canadian.
I don't remember if we did that one. I don't think we did this one. All right. For our Reed Rippin slab, we're going to go to the 70s, as 62 Lefty Blues asked. We're going to specifically go to DC Comics in the 70s. Since I just mentioned Batman Family, let's go with some 100-page giants. We have got Superman Family, number 168, with a Nick Cardy cover. Brave and Bold, number 116, with a Jim Aparo cover. And Tarzan, number 234, with a Joe Kubert cover. I guess I misspelled Joe.
It's the Dutch spelling.
Yeah, he's the lost Kubert brother, Joe Kubert.
Okay, that stuff.
Yeah, they're all kind of similar, but not really the same.
That's an interesting cover design. I don't think I ever seeing those, or I don't think I ever paid attention
Right,
to those
right.
to see it that way.
Because there's a lot in there. There's
Yes.
the DC 100-page banner. There's at least one logo. And then let's see, 3 panels. There's a lot going on. Oh, and then a bottom banner. I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Tit Goblins, he's already on it. Let's see. He's reading Brave and the Bold, ripping Tarzan, and slabbing Family Dolphin Detective Chimp. You're dolphining Detective Chimp. Okay.
Yeah, I'm reading Brave and the Bold because it has a bunch of characters inside. So is that Copperhead trying to kiss Batman? And I'm going to slab Superman just because of the Brainiac figure, and because of the way that Jimmy and Lois are dressed.
Yeah, but somebody might think you're a Nazi.
Yep. Before the symbol could be covered up. Now they can't appear on the covers.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have to rip a Joe Kubert cover. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Because of what Detective Chimp is doing. Stand up straight. You're a talking chimp.
Detective Chimp is something, says Tit Goblin. I'll be all about it if I found that.
I'm going to dolphin. I'm going to dolphin the Spectre appearing on the Brave and the Bold cover in the main panel.
I'm gonna dolphin Jane on the Tarzan cover because she's just too racy in that bikini.
Yeah, the French would have definitely dolphin.
We can't have that.
Oh, completely, because he's carrying her and she's practically laying down. In fact, I'm almost tempted to just dolphin all the women's on the cover just to keep everything safe. I would read Superman Family. And I would slab the Brave and the Bold. So unfortunately, well, no. You know what? I would slab Tarzan. That's the one I would slab. And unfortunately, that means I would rip Brave and the Bold. But that cover, you could rip it and still have, you could rip it in 3 and still have 3 full images if you do it correctly.
And the flamingos go on Congo Bill's hat.
I'm putting the flamingos behind the Spectre in that room. They're going to be in the corner, sort of underneath that Batman's foot, next to the, what is that, a brazier with a fire in it. They're going to be hanging out back there watching the scene. Let's see, Eric P. He's going to read Brave, rip Tarzan, and slab the Superman fan.
I'm going to put the flamingos on the Superman Family cover, and I'm going to have like each flamingo standing with like Lois, Jimmy, Supergirl. Like they're showing off whatever they're wearing too.
Ah, okay.
That's how I would
one
have
flamingo each.
Yes, so they each get a flamingo buddy, kind of in that pose.
Let's see, what is 62 Lefty Blues doing? He's reading Tarzan, slabbing Batman, ripping Superman Family, and Dolphin the gorilla chasing Tarzan and Jane. That gorilla's a little naked. I think I'm going to read that Tarzan also. Which cover do I like better? I think the Superman Family cover works better as a design, so I'm going to slab that one. Which means I'm going to rip Brave and the Bold, Batman and the Spectre. You can rip it right between you can rip it right between the logos too. Let's see.
Yeah.
You can rip it right between Batman, Spectre, and Brave and the Bold. Then you can rip the Batman and Spectre logos off. Then you can rip it between Batman and Spectre. Then you can rip it between the panels of the art. You can make a whole puzzle out of it.
Oh yeah.
that you can put back together.
$100 for only 60 cents.
Whew. I know people who love these 100-page DC ones, but I like not being a DC fan in the 70s. I never got into them. Because like people also loved like the Golden Age reprints in the back of these.
Right.
There's a lot of them that had Golden Age reprints.
I enjoyed finding these in the dollar bins when I was picking up stuff, back issues.
Right.
Because it's like, to me, going through the dollar bins, like, oh, I didn't find anything, but you always find 100-pager and go, hey, for $1. You know, I get a big story. I usually would pick up 2 or 3 of them, and I never put them together with other 100-pagers. So every now and then, going through a comic book box, I'll find 100-pager. It's like, oh, I remember picking this up.
They were always substantial too. That's what I like. Even though I didn't have many of them, I liked them that they were. It was like every comic should be 100 pages. This is substantial.
Yeah. You know, and especially the family books, you got so many different little stories.
Yeah.
And discovered characters you never knew, like Detective Chimp.
Detective Chimp. And that Paolo ripped up a Joe Kubert cover. Oh, I tell you, some people. No respect. Let's see. Another comic I got is the final issue of Ain't No Grave, which I haven't loved the story on, but it ended well. And the artist, what's his name? Jorge Corona. He just seemed like he was having such fun drawing all this smoky fabric for death. Not to mention the fabric. I mean, look at that. The fabric on the lead character. The art was just a lot of fun. And the whole story was she is a retired gunfighter. And there's a flashback. She's this badass retired gunfighter who settled down, had a kid with the love of her life, her husband. Then I think at the beginning, it must have been at her. She found out that, I don't know, she had cancer. She was going to die real soon, she found out. So she decided she was going to go to this scary town and face death so that, you know, she wouldn't have to die and would have more time with her family. And so the rest of the series was her going to this town and just getting in gunfights with these supernatural kind of people on her way to find death. And they're all like, really? You think you're going to be the one to get your way with death? Really? You think you're going to be the one who wins? And he's like, you're not going to win. Forget it. So finally in this issue, she has her confrontation with death. And he's just like, sorry, you're not going to, you're not going to not die. What makes you so special? And like all the people, there's a nice double page spread. All the people she ever shot or killed or whose life she affected, because it was, as Death explains, it's not just the people you killed, it's that they had loved ones too. Loved ones who may have gotten thrown out into the street because, you know, you killed the breadwinner or whatever it was. So finally, what's the deal he makes with her? Name your terms. Very well. Whatever you have left in your guns right now is how many chances you have. For every bullet that hits me, I'll give you time. A miss gets you a peek at the life you'll be missing. Do you agree to those terms? Of course she does. But of course, now she can't hit him because he's made of this smoky cape. So she's trying to shoot him, and every time she shoots him and misses, she gets a Ghost of Christmas Future thing that shows what would have happened if she lived. So there she is with getting married to her husband. There's her, I think that's her grandchild or her daughter with her grandchild, or maybe that's her granddaughter. So she just keeps missing, and she just keeps getting flashes of what her life would have been like if she lived. It's really sweet, but torturous. Then it ends with death winning, and she dies. But she was grateful for the glimpses she had. But I thought it wrapped up pretty well, but it was really the art that was the highlight of this series. There was really some interesting flowing fabric, weird costumes art that I enjoyed. But I'll buy whatever they do. This is their second series they did. The Me You Love in the Dark was the first series they did. Scotty Young is the writer. Was the first series they did together. They do another one, I'll probably buy that too, because I liked this one enough. Does any of Scotty Young's stuff make it over to Portugal, Paulo?
Nope.
No. He's not a big enough name.
You can buy the US editions in the comic shop, but nobody's interested in publishing him.
Okay. Just wondering. I'm always interested in what makes it over there. But what was the Portugal joke I just saw on some TV show? I cannot remember what I was just watching. But somebody said something about that. She's so weird. She went to Portugal.
Yeah, really? I saw that.
She was weird for coming to Portugal.
What?
Only murders in the building.
Only murders in the building. That was it. Yeah, why would you go to Portugal when Spain's right there?
Exactly. And they're being so nice to tourists right now in Barcelona.
That was only murder in the buildings? Okay. I couldn't remember where I just heard, because when I heard it, I'm like, I don't have to tell Paulo that one, but 2 days later, and I can't remember where I heard it. Well, my observation about Portugal was always, we here in the United States never hear anything about Portugal.
That's right.
Never. And, I knew more about Portugal in the 1600s than I did about Portugal in the current day, in any, growing up or whatever, because it's like Portugal just kind of like ceased to exist on the world stage, according to us Americans. Like, so I was like, I'd always say to people, what side do you think Portugal was on in World War II? No one had any.
Got the answer? What's the answer?
The answer is nobody. The answer is nobody.
They
were not on any. We were not involved. But a lot of strange people were in Portugal during World War II because of World War II.
Right.
Including a certain elite Nazi hunter unit, of which Ian Fleming was a part of.
Ah. So it's amazing to me, like Portugal is in all the history books up into a certain point. Then it's like all of a sudden it's like they disappeared. Because in the age of sail, they really punched above their weight a whole lot.
Yeah, we wanted to find spicy food and spicy women.
Any other comics, Wilson?
I do have one last book that I picked up, the facsimile edition of Secret Wars, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, issue number 9.
Uh-huh.
A nice, beautiful Mike and Deck cover.
Now, have you been reading those as they come out?
I've been skimming through them because I give Secret Wars a reread every couple of years.
Right.
So I haven't looked at the newer issues. I was getting through this before because one of the things that I noticed as a kid, although it's not in this particular issue, is that even though it's credited to Mike Zeck and Mike Zeck and John Beatty, I do know there were more artists working on the project because at some point it started to be pretty late. And after speaking to inker Keith Williams, he said a ton of people were chipping in and pitching in to get the book out on time. And I don't recall what issue it is, but there's one that looks obviously it was either inked, it was either drawn or inked by Art Adams.
Right.
Because they were monsters on that artwork, and you could tell an Art Adams monster. And he also, in the issue, the Thing turned from the Thing back to Ben Grimm in the storyline, and you could just look at the way the Thing is drawn or inked. It's like that's Art Adams. Art Adams had touched that page, so I was always curious who worked on that book. And then, years later, doing art returns and stuff like that, you kind of get a feel of who was the inker on a project, even though you don't see the name on there. So when I get the older books, I do look through them to see if I can figure out, is there a different art team on that particular page? Because sometimes there'll just be one page that looks a little off. And it looks a little off because it could be either a different artist or they rush through that particular page.
That reminds me of looking at the first artist edition to ever come out was The Rocketeer, I think. That was the first one by Dave Stevens. And I didn't get that one, but my friend Ed did. So I remember, the two of us looking through that one when he got it a whole lot. And in the back of it, in the later issues of The Rocketeer, he had people helping him out with it. One of them was Jaime Hernandez. And you can really tell the Jaime Hernandez backgrounds. Because all of a sudden, the characters in the background look like they're from Love and Rockets. They're really Jaime Hernandez drawings. It's like, whoa, look at that. So that was kind of cool to see. Which also reminds me, what's the Scott Dunbier?
Scott Dunbier.
He's the he was the editor. He was the one who dreamt up the whole artist edition thing at first. He just he quit IDW and started his own publishing company with some people. I think they announced their first project, which is going to be an artist edition, and I completely forgot which artist edition it was.
I didn't see the announcement, but I have that.
But the last artist edition he did with IDW was the David Mazzucchelli Batman Year One. So that just came out a few weeks ago, and a lot of people got it.
Right. I think Walter showed that he just got something.
Yes, he got that
in the mail, but he didn't open it up yet, so I wasn't sure what he got.
Right, because
it was that one.
That was that one. It said "Do not open case" on the outside.
Right.
And it was, I don't know how to get this into this. I do not open the case. But yeah, that's what that just reminded me of. Which artist editions do you have, Wilson?
I have none of them.
None?
None.
How about
of
you,
them.
Chris? Any artist editions?
Let's take a look.
Oh,
shall we?
Artist edition tour. I want to take a look.
All right.
I just took the wrong cord out.
Uh-oh.
All right. How do I flip the camera?
The eternal question. There's a flip symbol somewhere. If only I could find it. They keep moving it.
Settings. Settings. Camera.
Flip.
Camera.
Philadelphia, flip, flip. Philadelphia, Flipadelphia, Flipadelphia, flip, flip. Flipadelphia, flip, flip. A little It's Always Sunny reference for you.
All right. I'm looking at the thing I need to change, but it's not responding to my tapping.
Damn you.
There we go.
It's gone to black.
Does he
On the
have his
black,
hand?
huh?
Yeah.
It's gone
Do you
to
have your
black.
hand? Do you have your hand over the camera?
I do not.
It's just the camera being. There we go. Now
There
we
we
can
go.
see something. Flipadelphia, flip, flip. Flipadelphia, flip. We'll go bigger, see if we can see a little better.
Let's see. Will
Got Will
Eisner,
Eisner's The Spirit.
2 Spirit
Whoa.
volumes.
Is that Kirby's Fantastic
Got,
Four? New Gods, I see.
New Gods, yeah.
New Gods, John Byrne's Fantastic Four, Gil Kane's Amazing Spider-Man, Joe Kubert's Tarzan of the Apes, Simonson's Mighty Thor, Mike Zeck's Classic Marvel Stories, Simonson's Alien.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Those ones are mine specifically. There's more here.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, Simonson's Fantastic Four, John Byrne, John Buscema's Silver Surfer, EC Best of.
That one's a nice one.
That is a nice cover.
Let's see, Mark Schultz, Xenozoic Tales, Herb Trimpe's Incredible Hulk, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Steranko, Basil Wolverton's Weird Worlds, John Romita's Amazing Spider-Man, Marvel Comics, Marvel Covers, I guess various artists, another Joe Kubert Tarzan, another John Byrne Fantastic Four, David Mazzucchelli's Daredevil, Sergio's Gru the Wanderer, another New Gods, Jack Davis EC. That's wild stuff.
Is there an Usagi Yojimbo there?
There's not.
I think I might be the only one I know with the Usagi Yojimbo artist edition. Oh, that's the G.I. Joe yearbook. Michael Golden, that's the portfolio one. So instead of being bound in a book, they're individual prints.
Yep. Yep. And what's this one?
That looks like the Neil Adams one.
Neil
Real
Adams.
Kill. Yeah, that's the Neil Adams one. Same thing, not bound, but loose sheets because it's a short story.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Very cool.
That's new, that Aquaman. Toy Biz Aquaman.
Very nice. Superpowers or Toy Biz one?
These are the Toy Biz, which were I initially shunned because they were clearly a step back in quality compared to the Superpowers toys that came before them. But now I like them.
Now they've got a nostalgic quality.
Yeah. Yep. Any requests before I try to flip my camera back around?
I don't have any requests. Do you guys? Let's see.
I do not.
I was happy to see the artist's edition.
You need to get an action figure of a dolphin so we can do a live version of the French Aquaman cover.
We might have a dolphin.
Ooh.
That's what I liked Wilson's redoing the Captain America #1 cover with his Jack Kirby figure. That looked cool.
Yeah, that was fun. It was actually really
shark.
fun. You have a shark?
Can't be a
Got
shark.
a shark.
No, it has to be a dolphin.
We got a shark. We got an octopus.
They didn't do action figures of Flipper?
I guess
No.
maybe they did.
There's
got to be some sort of dolphin.
Got to be a dolphin somewhere. He'll find it.
There's got to be one.
Can't be a shark. It's only funny if it's a dolphin.
Dolphins are funnier than sharks. My last comic I got for the week. What was that?
I have a bag of sea creatures. I can look to see if I have a dolphin. These are from action figures, not action figures, but animals that my
random bag
from my
of
mom
sea
used to be my mom used to be a teacher, and I have found her stuff fairly recently.
Eric
Definitely
P.
a lot of
has
sharks.
Chris done a Chris version of a dolphin? Have you ever drawn a dolphin, Chris?
Not to my recollection. You know what? I have. Really odd commission request a long time ago. It was Hitler throwing a dolphin into the sun. So
you're right. That really is odd.
Yeah.
So what do you have there, Wilson?
I have a lot of sea lions.
And
a couple of sharks, even a whale, but I am not seeing a dolphin.
How are dolphins so rare as toys?
And the colors, I'm thinking this is a killer whale.
Yeah, that's an orca.
Yep.
Echo the dolphin.
There is one dolphin.
All right.
A very tiny one, but I did find a dolphin. So we have a dolphin for the show.
No, but that size is perfect. We can prop up an Aquaman figure to be holding the dolphin.
All right. And I have Aquaman? I have.
He's got to have an Aquaman somewhere.
I don't know if I have a Superpowers Aquaman or even a Toy Biz Aquaman, because I'm only recently getting those figures. So I have to check in my DC box.
All right. My last comic of the week is The Pedestrian, issue 2. And this book just gets weirder.
That's deceiving advertising. I mean, if it's pedestrian, we expect it to be pedestrian, not weird.
Well, that's just it. Half of it is pedestrian. Half of it is kind of this slice of life where we get to learn these stories of the people who the pedestrian has kind of failed or saved, pardon me, in the first issue. And then they're talking about the pedestrian and who he is. And then we get, where is the pedestrian? The pedestrian is just, I think it's the crossing guards. Here's the crossing guard who he helped save. And then we find out the pedestrian is and the crossing guard does good deeds. Then we find out like the pedestrian is hanging out at the crossing guard's house. And then the cop who's investigating the incident shows up at the crossing guard's house that happened yesterday because she wants to know who this weirdo pedestrian is. And the woman just covers for him and he's hanging out on the roof. And he never talks either. He's completely mute so far. And then we get, all of a sudden, there's this guy whose symbol, there we go. his symbol is a red hand. There it is on his face mask. He's got a red hand, and he touches that guy who's in jail with his red hand. And then that guy goes out and commits violence. We don't know why. He's got a red hand. The red hand is like guiding him behind him to commit violence at this hardware store. We don't know what that's about. Then the pedestrian shows up to try to stop the violence. And this red hand guy puts his red hand on the pedestrian's chest. And the pedestrian goes on this psychedelic trip. Don't know what this psychedelic trip is until finally the woman who was the crossing guard shows up and rescues him. First the other woman in the store hits the bad guy, not the guy with the red hand, but the other bad guy who was doing bad stuff with a shovel. And then they save the pedestrian, who's now has a red hand burned into his chest. And don't ask me what all that means. It's kind of cool, but I don't know what it means. 62 Lefty Blue says the pedestrian has to catch him red-handed. Yes. So I still don't know what this book is about, but the artwork is nice. It's Joey Esposito does the script. Sean Van Gorman is the art. Josh Jensen is the colors. An additional art by David Bowie Rendon Gorman. And Mika Williams. And this whole thing in the beginning is just the kids who were rescued yesterday by the pedestrian watching TV. That's just them watching TV. There's Wilson again. You get a little Power Rangers action in the beginning. What do they call them?
Off,
yeah, obviously, they're Power Rangers. What is it? Laser Titans. They're the Laser Titans. Laser Titans activate photonic energy. The kids' favorite show. And the kid's babysitter turns out to be another person, the pedestrian saved the day before. So I have no idea where this thing is going. But I am enjoying it. It's by Magma Comics. Magma Comics has done I think this is the second comic of theirs I bought. What do they got in the back here? The Pedestrian #2, Greaser Gemini Blues. I bought the first issue of that, but didn't get any of the others. Hell's Half Acre. I don't think I got... Oh, they did the Principles of Necromancy, which I enjoyed. So they've done some decent stuff. And of course, they have alternate covers. Because who doesn't? Variant by Mike McCone. Incentive by Valentine Delandro. Mike McCone, I know that name.
He's an artist.
Yeah, do you remember what he's done? I think he's one of those guys who's done a lot of things, but I've never really paid that close attention to him.
Yeah, he used to do a lot of stuff for DC. I have an Elseworlds miniseries he did.
Mm-hmm.
For Marvel, he did one of those Doom 2099 books. He also did, I think it was Spartan, is the character from Image.
Okay.
He did that miniseries.
Yeah, it's a name I definitely recognize, but I can't think of. In Greaser Gemini Blues, Derek Robertson does a variant because I think he's writing it. He's not drawing the comic, but he's writing it. An Edward Rizzo variant on Hell's Half Acre. I don't think I've seen Hell's Half Acre at all. Oh, Silicon Bandits. That's the other one. It is in trade now. That's the other one I bought by Magma. So this is the third comic. Well, Greaser I only got one issue of, but this is the third comic that's been on my pull list from Magma. So they must be doing some comics I like. I think they're also $4 comics rather than $5 comics. So that makes me put them on my pull list faster. Because sometimes it's just not worth buying an okay $5 comic. It's got to be a good $5 comic. I want those to be A's, not B's.
Right. That's 1.5 spawns.
Yep.
For the price of 1.5.
I almost bought a random issue of one of Spawn's other books this week.
Yep.
Because it was $3, but instead I decided to go for the $5 Autumn Kingdom. But I forget what I forget which they had one of those Spawn books that's I think issue 33 was out this week. And I was like, wow, 33 issues. They're really chugging along there on all those Spawn books. So it's like I should try one. I should buy one of these because I'm like, next time. Because I went for the Autumn Kingdom instead because that more suited my taste. Have you picked up any Spawn books, Wilson? I don't think I've seen you with any. Is Wilson frozen on us again?
I have not. I picked up a couple of them. I picked up a couple right before 300.
Uh-huh.
Am I?
You broke up on us a little.
Okay. I only picked up a couple of books right before it hit 300. Mm-hmm. No spawns.
Like this might be the time to pick them up because there's so many of them and they're all $3. Have you read any Spawns, Chris, recently?
I have not.
Were you ever a regular Spawn reader?
In the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. How many issues did you go?
Maybe like 60, 70.
That's a good chunk. That's a good 5 years of reading Spawn. A good chunk o' Spawn. Yeah, because I didn't read any in the early days.
Did you ever go back and?
No, I just started buying it fresh and new. With like issue 314 or something. Wilson tells us, no, I haven't gotten an issue of Spawn since 296 or so. Just before issue 300, but I never stayed with it. I started with issue 1 till I think 40. Back when everybody was reading Spawn. Except me. I only read an issue here or there. Were you ever a regular Spawn reader, Paolo?
No, I have a couple of issues. But when Image came out, I wanted Wildcats. The Wildstorm universe was the good stuff.
I agree. It took me 6 months to buy any Image stuff. Maybe 4 to 6 months, let's say. Because I just wasn't that interested in it. But then I was in the another local comic. In the early 90s, I would say there was half a dozen comic shops near me within like a 20-minute drive. So I used to check some of them out sometime. And one day I was at them and they had a bunch of them as back issues. They had where I could pick up maybe 4 to 6 issues of whatever Image comics there was. So I went, all right, let me try some of this. So that's when I first started the Image comic series. I kind of did the same thing with CrossGen. I waited until there was like 4 issues each of CrossGen around. And I bought like 4 issues of Scion. And I bought 4 issues of whatever else. And I was like, okay, I like this one. I'll stick with it. I guess my internet is unstable. You guys are breaking up on me as well. Yeah. Well, we're going to end in a few minutes anyway, so we'll have to catch Wilson next week. Which Image comics were your first, Chris? Savage Dragon?
I think I was buying like whatever came out first. I would guess. So
Okay.
I was right on
So
top of
you
Spawn.
were on all of them immediately. How old were you?
Not all of them. I was 17.
Okay. So that's a good
Graduating
age.
high school. Yeah.
I gravitated towards Wildcats, but the first one I bought was Cyberforce.
Okay. The first one I bought and liked was Stormwatch. That was the one I jumped on first, and then I got that sort of collection they put out of the Wildcats miniseries. It wasn't quite a trade paperback, but it was something like that. Because I don't, or maybe we would count it as a trade paperback. I think they put did Wildcats come out as like 4 issues as a miniseries and it launched again? Was it one of those?
No, that was Cyberforce. Wildcats came out as a 4-issue miniseries. Then after their 0, they launched number 5.
Okay, so after it was out a little while, they put out 1 through 4 in like a trade paperback, but it wasn't really. And that's what I bought. And then I jumped. I bought it from there on in. I think that was probably around like when 6 or 7 was out, so I could easily go to the store and pick up like 5, 6, and 7.
Well, it was easy because everybody ordered 20,000 copies of Wildcats, thinking it was going to be worth money.
Right. They were easy to find. So all the Image stuff was easy to find. Like I said, there were so many comic shops around me too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, it wasn't until, must be only about a decade ago now, I actually, from mycomicshopbook.com, bought the original. Like I said, since I had that collected edition, I never had the original issues of Wildstorm 1 through 4. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy them just as a lark because they were like $1 a piece. So with some like random mycomicshop.com order, I put in Wildcats 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I have, with their, I think they had like chromium covers and this and that. I was like, you know what? I'll order these just for the heck of it. Let's see. 62 Lefty Blues says, I preferred Malibu over Image other than Pitt in the Max. Yeah, I never bought any Malibu stuff to me. I just was never into Malibu, but I know a bunch of people really liked it. I think it was the art that never appealed to me on Malibu. But they had good writers. Like Jim Starlin was writing stuff for them, Steve Englehart.
And Len Straczynski.
Len Straczynski was writing for them?
Yeah. But they had good artists as well. I mean, Perez and Windsor Smith moved there.
That's right. I did buy the Windsor Smith Rune. That's one of the things I bought. I always like Tim Howlermouse's story about he always tells a story about the Rune Conan crossover by Barry Smith. He was like, Barry Smith back on Conan. He thought it was just going to be such a big deal that Barry Smith was going to be back on Conan, and nobody cared. It was just like, he was all excited about it. He's like, Barry Smith back on Conan, first time in 20 years, and just nobody cared. I was just like, you know what? I never, even when that was coming out and I was buying it, it never struck me as in any way significant that Barry Smith was back on Conan. I just until Tim said that a few years ago, I was like, wow, you know what? Maybe that should have been a big deal. Wilson can't log back in, but I'll watch. Oh, James Robinson did Hard Case. Has he been writing comics in ages? James Robinson?
I haven't seen him in a while.
I haven't seen him in a while either. Because didn't he the last thing I remember him on was maybe did he write the JSA for DC?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I've seen anything after that. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, even when they did the comeback, and they got James Robinson to do the comeback, because he was also writing JLA at the time, I believe. So they did the JLA JSA crossover, and Kingdom Come Superman was a member of the JSA.
62 Lefty Believes says James Hudnall had a series and Brereton did art. Brereton is good. I like it. He does a lot of.
But was that Ultraverse or Bravura?
Because Bravura was creator owned, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Chaikin was there.
Robinson just put out a book with Dark Horse. I'm going to have to look
Nice.
for that. I haven't noticed that.
Because Chaikin was there. He did a thing for Bravura.
Well, yeah. Dark Horse.
Power and Glory. The character showed up in Hey Kids Comics. It's one of the comics that they put out in one of the fake companies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Eric P mentions it too. Power and Glory by Chaikin was Malibu.
Yeah, and Stephen Grant and Gil Kane had something that they didn't finish.
Ah.
But I can't
That's
remember
a
what it was
story
called.
that I think it was Karl Bowlers tells. Karl Bowlers, when he was working for Marvel in like the mid 90s, he was an editor there, and he was also doing a little writing, getting his writing career started. And he was doing some annual, I forget which one. And his editor like gave him a choice of, he's like, we might be able to get Gil Kane to draw this, but it might take him a while. It might not be in time. We're not sure. Or else we can get this other random guy to draw it. You know, the choice is yours. I think Karl had a writing partner on that too, where they were like, he's like, we were young and we were like, and they wanted to get it out. So like, we'll go with the sure thing. And he's like, I could have written one of the last things Gil Kane did and worked with Gil Kane, and instead chose not to. He's like, Let's see. Brereton did the Nocturnals at Malibu, which along with Astro City got me back into reading comics around 95. Cool, Eric P. Petra #1 came out last week. Petra. Oh, I guess that's our Robinson one. I'll have to check that out. Well, we should log off for the night because it's getting late. Paolo has to go to bed. Mm-hmm. Chris has to finish his he can't tell us about it assignment. Or at least work on it.
I probably got more of it done because I was on with you guys than I would have otherwise.
Here's another series coming out, James Robinson, with Dark Horse with J Bone doing the art. Okay, I'll check that one out. J Bone. All right, T Bone. We'll catch you later. Have a great night, Wilson. You can catch Wilson probably on his TikTok later on at about 9:30.
And let's hope he can set up a photo of Aquaman holding a dolphin.
Yeah.
Post it on Instagram. Right.
So we'll catch you all later. Everyone have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.